Hello, everybody. Welcome to a very special episode of Take the Black Live. Why is it special? Because Julie Davies is actually able to see it without getting up before her usual hour of awakening to watch us at a godly hour. Hello, Julie in Miami. Hello, everyone for watching. Hello, Andrew. Hello, Martha. Glad to see you all here. We're Take the Black. We talk about, movies, TV, fantasy, sci-fi, space lasers, swords and horses, this kind of thing. All day, every day, or to be specific, Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Central. Daniel Roman, my co-host, how are you doing?
Right. I'm doing spectacularly. It's been a big week at the movies, a good week for TV shows and fantasy stuff. So I don't know. I can't complain. How are you, Dan?
I'm swell. My eye is de-swollen. We have us to talk about. We have people watching. Hello, PhD McCoy. Hello, Morrison. And we're excited too, Andrew. Thanks for watching. What else was I going to say? Whatever. Daniel, what are we talking about today on this beautiful Wednesday?
Well, as we often do, we're going to start off with Winds of Winter and House of the Dragon updates, because anytime that there's anything to be said about either of those two things, we are contractually obligated to say them. So we've had some exciting ones this week because George R.R. Martin's been talking. So he blogged and what did he? Yeah, what did you talk about, Dan? There was a whole bunch of stuff. Anything that caught your eye in there?
Yeah, I mean, George R.R. Martin, a Song of Fire author, weighed in on House of the Dragon, the fact that it's still going during these strikes. As we know, Hollywood is currently more or less-ish shut down because all the actors are on strike. Julianne Moore's not appearing in anything for the foreseeable future. All the writers are on strike, although now there are some soap operas that are like bringing in scab writers. I heard about that. So also just saying, Hollywood, if you want someone to scab, I don't know, I consider it for the right amount of money. And George R.R. Martin said that he is shocked that House of the Dragon is still filming because he, like me, and I think like a lot of folk, it came as a surprise to him to learn that if you're filming something in England and that if you're part of the English Actors Union Equity, you can't really go on strike because they're allowed to fire or sue you, which seems to defeat the purpose of unions. Although, I mean, of course, there are. It's kind of weird because is it abnormal that the U.S. has such strong union protections that we protect people from reprisal from their employers if they go on strike, or is that normal, or are we the outliers? Because, I mean, at the end of the day, like, labor strikes are a form of rebellion, right? They're like, I'm disrupting things on purpose. It's kind of weird that, like, strikes are organized at all. I guess, like, the power comes from the chaos. But I think it's good that we protect employees from reprisal. But England's like, nah, no strikes. I'm going to guess Thatcher did this, but I don't know. Any English people in the chat can tell us.
Yeah, it made me feel a little bit better to hear George R.R. Martin talk about how confused he was to find all this out.
Who would
because,
be confused?
Us laymen's, we were all trying to figure it out. If he was confused, we were all allowed to be confused. And it's a fair question about, the different strike laws in different countries, and I don't know the answer to that. Do other European countries support striking? Beats me. I would assume there are probably more countries in the world that do not support strikes or have protections in the same way that we do in the US. So that's fair, but it was shocking to hear that England had such a draconian system for strikes, especially because one of their political parties is the Labor Party. So
they're called the Labor
Martin
Party.
Weighed in on the strikes. He also Yes.
In their name.
Yes. Apparently that means we will ensure you give us labor no matter at what cost. But Martin also talked about other stuff too, and
yes,
it is a charming island. Yes. It, obviously, so the big thing we need to mention, which prepare everyone for the collective eye roll that comes with any time this man says anything about this. But he basically just said he's still working on the Winds of Winter. He talked about a whole bunch of different projects, said that his development deal with HBO is currently suspended as of June 1st. I'm curious, like, what exactly does that mean? Does that mean that they were just, like, we're on strike right now, there's nothing you can do? Or like, is Martin's contract done for now with HBO? Are they going to need to renegotiate? Did you have any thoughts on that? Because that was something that stood out to me that I wanted to know more about.
I mean, I haven't seen the contracts or anything, but I imagine suspended means suspended. That, yeah, they're on strike. He's on strike. He's a writer. He's in the WGA's on strike. So he's just not working on anything right now. And he's probably not getting the income stream from HBO, which boo-hoo, I'm sure he'll get by somehow. I imagine that's what it means. Obviously, HBO wouldn't want to lose a big person like him. I imagine that when the writer's strike is over, if it's ever over, because I mean, again, it's possible that it just doesn't end and we just start having robots write things for forever in the future, that it'll come back. I'm sure that's it. As for the Winds of Winter, Julie says that do we believe anything he says these days? I'm down with George R.R. Martin. I think he's pretty charming. I believe him. I think he's sincere. And again, I say this every time. I'm just repeating myself, but it's true. The fact that he's willing to talk about the Winds of Winter and be even kind of like funny about it. He says that he's writing, rewriting, editing, writing some more, making steady progress. Not as fast as I would like. Certainly not as fast as you would like, but progress nonetheless. It's going to be cheeky and coy. That tells me he's comfortable. It tells me it's happening.
That was a good one.
Thank you. I'm working on it in the mirror every day. I contradict with Patrick Rothfuss in the Winds of and the Doors of Stone, who just never mentions anything. I'd be afraid if Martin never mentioned it. But the fact that he's talking about it and even being a little funny and cheeky about it, I think is a good sign. There was another one where he was like on an interview, like a video interview with a guy that I actually watch, a YouTuber named Dominic Noble, who does like these YouTube videos comparing books or adaptations. And he gets to interview George R.R. Martin. I was very jealous. I was like, I want to do that. And he made like a little comment about like Winds of Winter, and George R.R. Martin was like, "Yeah, I'm working on it. Not when I'm doing podcasts," which was cute and funny and nice. So I'm sure he's working on it. I'm sure it's coming along. Nice to hear it. Somehow, I'm not frustrated with him.
Yeah.
I find him too charming.
Yeah. I mean, I am not frustrated with him either. To be honest, it's hard to, looking at this, I know he's gotten a lot of flack for saying stuff, and when he talks about it recently, people are mad, but like there was a solid couple of year period there where he wasn't saying anything for exactly the sort of reason you said, like with that comparison to Patrick Rothfuss. I feel like when there is reluctance to say anything, that makes me a little more worried than when he's, to see him go through a period of talking about it a lot when he started, not really talking about it at all when it was getting delayed and delayed and delayed. And now to the point where he can be like, yeah, I'm working on it. Still working on it. It's coming along.
Little jokes.
What did he say on that video that you mentioned? It's only been 12 years since the last one. So he's cracking wise, and I'm not too mad about it.
He's good. Although Julia's a good point.
One day.
I think one day believes it, but I'm skeptical he'll deliver. Yes, that I can see. I think we'll get wins. The next one, I don't know. And as for Andrew, Richard's right, Andrew. We thought about having a Discord server. We considered it. Maybe someday. I don't know. We'll see what happens. If there's demand for it, who else wants a Discord server? But if you're
Twitter's collapsing, so who knows?
X. Call it, it's X now. Get it right.
I will not.
Um, we can't start talking about that. It's a whole other weird situation. If you want to read The Winds of
Yes.
Winter right now and you don't want to wait, there is a fan who took it upon themselves to write the entirety of The Winds of Winter and A Dream of Spring using AI, artificial intelligence. Um, this is real. They actually did that. You can Google it. It's pretty interesting. It's interesting. I actually did read some of this, like the AI generated Winds of Winter and Dream of Spring. They're way longer than the longest book in a Song of Ice and Fire series. Like they're like, I think it was like 683,000 characters for words for the Winds of Winter. And I don't really see there being much danger.
You can't even publish a book that size.
You have to break it up.
They can. Yeah, you would.
It wouldn't fit. And did you read any, Daniel? Just curious. Did you read any of the AI Winds of Winter?
I have not. So I'm sure I've talked about it on here. I am pretty firmly against using AI to do any kind of creative writing like this. So yeah, morally, I objected, and I had zero desire to look at it. But I will say I was kind of pleasantly surprised with the takeaway of this project, because this person, credit where it's due. It sounds like they did put quite a lot of work into this. It wasn't like they just put some prompts in and then said, now I've got the Winds of Winter. Like, they spent quite a lot of time kind of revising and editing prompts and what they were sending through ChatGPT or whatever they used. And basically the takeaway they came back around to was doing this with AI reassured them that AI is not going to be replacing unique literary work by George R.R. Martin anytime soon. I think he said something about how it like couldn't predict the kind of really shocking twists Martin is known for. So that was like the big thing that was missing from these AI versions. They didn't kill it. Yeah, there was no Ned Stark or Red Wedding, because it's beyond the ken of AI to imagine such duplicitous acts. Only human beings are that evil to even think of such a thing. But yeah, so I have not read it. I imagine I will not be reading it. Those of you out there, are you going to read the AI Song of Ice and Fire?
Because I did read some. I was curious. Yeah. Honestly, my big problem wasn't that it wasn't twisty enough. I didn't like read it front to cover or anything. It was that I was like reading individual chapters, and it was just, once AI produces, because I don't mind AI. I've used it for some stuff to see what it can do, and this thing's more of like an experiment, like kind of like a can it do this? And
yes, it was.
What was getting to me was that when AI is used to produce like long things, like a book level thing, you really start to see how quickly it gets very repetitive. Like, there's I was reading these scenes of like Daenerys talking to some of her council, and like every paragraph like was Missandei, her eyes gleaming with the light of 1,000 afternoon daydreams, like suggested this. And then Daenerys said, "That is good." And then Tyrion, his smiling with the gleam of and then like, they were always like character, comma, weird description, comma, said something. And then Daenerys said, yes. And then they just kept going on and 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 on. Like, it was, you wouldn't be able to get through much of this. Also, it's also weird because I've tried using AI to just experiment and write the Winds of Winter myself. It doesn't seem to know what happened in A Dance with Dragons. Because like Jon Snow is at Winterfell and Stannis is nowhere, and the first chapter is Tyrion, Brienne, and Davos on a boat in the Narrow Sea. And again, and then it just goes into that thing where they all kind of say weirdly same things forever. And no one says anything of substance. It was odd. It was an interesting experiment. I don't mind that it happened, but That's what I took away from it. I wasn't really like, oh, it didn't kill anybody.
Yeah.
It apparently didn't. But I was like, it doesn't.
Yeah.
It seems to like know names and like places from the book, but there's no attempt to like kind of put them in the context we expect or to like do things with them that an author would do. It is strange. It is a strange reading experience. It didn't resemble Martin at all.
Yeah,
like, not even a little.
I'm sure.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I'm sure it didn't resemble him either, like from a plotting perspective, because like you said, like it's easy to take for granted how much of those books is Martin finding little tiny things and making them interesting. Like all of those courtroom conversations or advisors like are filled with like tiny little minutiae that he, you know, him as a medieval historian or whatever would think to include that is just not something AI would include. Yeah. So I mind this less than some of the AI things, because really the issue I have is not AI, it's the way companies are using it.
Oh yeah.
And this was an individual who was like, I wonder if it could do this thing.
I kind of wondered too. And now I know.
Yeah. And now we know. Yeah. Well, we'll just keep waiting for the Winds of Winter.
As Christian asked,
what Winds of Winter fans do,
which it will happen. Is there an audiobook version of this? There is not, but I mean, there's AI, so you can just feed the text through a speech machine. I'm sure you can get Helen Mirren to read the entire thing to you. So that's what I would do. I might. Yeah. Here I will put the some point I'll find the article that I wrote, which links to everything, and then I'll put it in the chat.
Yeah.
I will send it to producer Richard. But one other thing that I wanted to mention that Martin talked about was he gave us a title for the Game of Thrones stage play. Do you realize that?
Yeah.
They've been working on this stage play about the attorney at Harrenhal for a while. We hadn't heard a thing about it for a minute. And I wondered if it was gone, but no, it's going to be set at the attorney at Harrenhal. So it's like when young Rhaegar Targaryen and Lyanna Stark really got things a moving and Robert Rebellion kicked off.
Yep.
I like the idea. It's apparently George R.R. Martin called it the Iron Throne. He does have a tendency to just kind of say things and title things like Snow or whatever that are working titles, but whatever, the Iron Throne.
Yeah.
That can work. It's fun to know that it's still going on.
Yeah, I'm glad it's still going on. I've always felt that if they were going to do some kind of stage play, doing a tourney, and especially that tourney, is kind of a fun choice. I could see it working well as a play. The Iron Throne, I do wonder if that's like the final title. That is kind of a weird, interesting title. Just thinking about that tourney, because the throne is not particularly relevant to that tourney.
Yeah.
I guess beyond maybe that is one of the seeds of Robert's Rebellion, but we're not going to see Robert's Rebellion in the play, presumably.
It's also the title of the series finale. Which a little weird.
It was. And for that, I didn't mind, because obviously the very iconic Drogon scene, like that felt fitting. It's the end of Game of Thrones, whatever, the Iron Throne. But yeah, it was nice to see him talk about this, because you're right, it has been in development for years and years and years. So it's nice to know that it's not dead and that it's still going. And yeah, maybe it will come to Broadway one day. Before the Winds of Winter, after.
After. I'm gonna say after. Apparently at the West End first. So all of our English listeners, you can't strike, but you can see the attorney at Harrenhal play before we do.
Yeah. I feel like the West End, they tend to get the story-driven TV show book tie-in plays before the US. I feel like Harry Potter was like that too, and The Cursed Child, that hit the West End before it came to the US. I wonder why that is.
Well, I mean, Rowling's British.
Yeah,
I guess that makes sense to me.
Yeah,
I mean, I wouldn't see it
that one did
either
make sense.
way. They charge like $500 to see these plays. Like that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But yay.
Yep. I am inclined to agree.
What next?
Sorry, there's a little bit of a delay, so I wasn't sure.
There is a bit. Sorry.
Yeah. So beyond all of that, the kind of one of the last notable things in Martin's posts that he talked about is that House of the Dragon is roughly halfway done with filming.
Oh, yeah.
So yay. It's such a bittersweet thing right now, knowing, all these strikes are going on. The actors can't strike over there. They don't have writers on set. I don't believe Ryan Condal's on set. So
Probably not.
it is. I am so nervous to see how these shows that film through the strike are gonna turn out. But House of the Dragon's chugging along, and there are a lot of reports of new cast members joining the show for season 2.
Yes,
there were a slew of people that were just announced, not officially, from scoop sites. And we're not going to go through them all because most of them we don't know who they're playing. So they seem like smaller roles. Presumably, there are a lot of actors who are not very familiar. But there was one that was interesting I wanted to call out, which is an actor named Graham McKnight, who will apparently play a character named Paxter Strong. So potentially another member of the Strong clan, like Laris Strong. But this one's not in Fire and Blood. Why do you think they'd be adding another Strong in there, Dan? Any theories?
Strong featured man, this person, very angular.
Yes.
I don't know. I imagine that Damon will go to Harrenhal. He'll meet some of the Strong family.
Yeah.
Maybe they needed someone to voice an opinion and needed to give a speaking line to somebody. It's a very boring answer.
It's a fair one.
I'm not too worried about it. I assume that there's a big family. I think they're all gone by the end of the Dance of Dragons. So bon voyage, Paxter Strong, sooner or later.
Yep. But yeah, that's the main updates from House of the Dragon, the Winds of Winter. I think we heard just today as well that the handmaiden who Aegon abused in the first season will be returning apparently for season 2.
Diana.
So that's another interesting tidbit. Yeah, Diana. Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder how that's going to play out.
That's cool.
But
they're getting together.
Beyond. Yeah, it's coming together. But beyond all that, there's really one thing that everybody's been talking about this past week.
Oh, yeah.
And we're going to not break the trend. We're going to talk about it too. And that's Barbenheimer. So Barbie, directed by Greta Gerwig, and Oppenheimer, directed by Christopher Nolan, both hit theaters over the weekend. And they set I don't know that they set a record, but it was a historic opening. They both wildly outperformed projections. And apparently it was the 4th highest domestic box office weekend of all time, behind only Infinity War and Endgame, so the last 2 Avengers movies, and Star Wars The Force Awakens, which means if you take out big franchise sequels, this is the highest domestic box office we've ever seen. Barbie took home around 155 million. Woo! Oppenheimer took home around 80 million in its opening weekend.
Didn't bomb.
Dan, it did not bomb. The bomb did not bomb. I read that it more or less like doubled projections. So yeah, Dan, you've seen both of these. You Barbenheimered. I have not yet Barbenheimered.
I did not Barbenheimer. Like, I didn't do the double feature.
What did you do?
So Andrew saw Barbie Saturday, Oppenheimer Sunday. I was the reverse. I saw Oppenheimer Saturday, Barbie on Sunday. First of all, I'm very encouraged that like 2 A, very different, B, very good, because I thought they were both very good. C, non-franchise. I mean, Barbie's a franchise, like waiting to happen, but whatever. At least it's not a current.
Yeah,
it's not a sequel. Non-sequels.
Yeah.
Very low special effects movies, because Barbie, one thing that's really impressive, barely any CGI.
Practical.
Like they built everything. It looks so good. That Barbie Land set, crazy.
I
like
watched
all
an
the
interview
transitions.
Yeah, I watched an interview with Greta Gerwig where she talked about all of the practical sets and effects they used to make everything look like it did, like Barbie Land. Like they looked at like the dimensions, like how Barbie I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, like her size compared to the size of Barbie buildings, and then they recreated that in the movie to give it that kind of weird soundstage effect. Sorry, you were saying, continue. So it's nice to see some original movies.
Yeah, all those things making
we're going to count Barbie
splashes.
as an original movie.
It's a non-sequel, we'll say that. Yeah, they're both splendid.
Yeah.
I prefer, I mean, okay, so here's the line I like. They're both so different that comparing them almost seems silly, but I'm going to do it anyway because it's fun. I liked Barbie better. I thought Barbie did a better job at what it was trying to do, which was kind of be this, you know, heartfelt, comedic satire that's wrapped up like merchandising. You know what's so good about it? It's that it's baldly a commercial for Barbie. Like it literally kind of like advertises Barbie accessories during it, and the end credits are like the various dolls that inspired the characters. But it gets away with it because it does have something to say. Obviously, a ton of love went into it. It's a real script with like a real conflict and genuinely entertaining. The songs were great and not overdone. The performances were a lot of fun. The costumes were great. The sets were great. I just liked watching it. The jokes were funny. Everyone's hitting. Will Ferrell's funny. Ryan Gosling's funny. Margot Robbie is funny. And it was on the shorter side. So it was just get in, get out. I thought it was great. Oppenheimer is this big 3-hour chunky serious biopic of this major historical world figure. Again, so different. I didn't enjoy it quite as much. I was bored for part of it. I guess I loved the scene where they detonated the bomb, the Trinity test. And then I had arguments about this with my friends, by the way, with my partner who felt differently. I was like, and then after that, like talking about whether he loses his security clearance because he's a communist just seemed like small potatoes. Like it's about Oppenheimer, but the bomb is the most interesting thing about Oppenheimer. I didn't really care about his personal life that much. I wanted to know what it meant that he'd made this incredibly destructive force and what it meant for the world. And that's not the movie they made. It's a biopic. It's about him. So we have to learn about his wife and his mistress and his trumped up communist charges and his little trial. But I'm like, I don't really care. Just like, I want to see what happened in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. I don't know. I couldn't get out of my head. I couldn't get past it. But beautifully made, serious filmmaking.
Yeah.
What'd you think of Oppenheimer, you non-Barbie scene, Philistine?
Well, so I have not seen either of them yet. So
I thought you saw the one. Okay.
I haven't. No, I was away most of the weekend. So I missed out on the Barbenheimer. I will be catching up on it at some point soon. But what you just said about it not showing, you know, what this bomb meant on the grand scale, that's a complaint I've seen a lot of people make. Like, you know, this movie is about these devastating bombs, but it didn't show any scenes in Japan or of them dropping or anything like that. And it is tricky because, like you said, it's a biopic. So that is like one of the great strengths and weaknesses of a biopic is that you are bound to a certain perspective. And in this case, you know, Oppenheimer wasn't there for those things. He created this bomb, and then it had its own effect on his psychology to know it was being taken and used in such a way. So I'm fascinated to see what that's like. I have heard more than a few people talk about the third hour dragging a little bit. So not too surprised to hear that there were some parts that kind of you felt were a little slower.
I was still entertained. You know, like I enjoyed the third hour. I wanted a different movie. And I had my argument with my partner who was like, well, that's not the movie they made. Like they made a biopic. And I'm like, well, make a different one then. I guess I just wanted something different. It's good at what it is. And I loved the Trinity test scene where they explode the bomb. I thought it was terrific. Really, really gripping.
Cool. And you mentioned Barbie, how it's nice to see this movie that did not overly rely on CGI. And that is true, shockingly, of Oppenheimer too. Apparently there are no like big special effects shots in that, like digital effects in that movie. Like the bomb was practical, which is kind of insane to think about. They recreated that. It's not insane when you see it. Okay,
I think like it's not, it's done with filmmaking. It's done with like they're all looking at it. And you know what? They found awe on the faces of the human beings who had witnessed what they had wrought. I'll quote a line from Susan Sarandon from years ago that I still make fun of with my brother to this day, where she's at some award show and she's talking about some movie she's in, and she says, and the only special effect it had is the effect it had on its audience. And then she pauses so folk can appreciate how clever that was. We always whip that out whenever we want to sound smug.
I like it. Christopher Nolan would probably approve. But yeah, so let me ask you. So you saw Oppenheimer on day 1. You saw Barbie on day 2. As a Barbenheimer, as someone who hasn't done it yet, is that the correct order to watch it in? Or should I be watching Barbie first and then Oppenheimer?
What kind of mood are you in? I think that's a question only
it sounds
you
like
can
you don't think
answer.
it matters.
I don't think it matters, no. If you do it in one day, I do Oppenheimer first because you're going to need some more endurance. But if you're on different days, do whatever you want.
Okay, cool. But yeah, so Barbenheimer bringing it home in the cinema. I'm a little nervous. There's such an irony to this, right? That these two movies, which are kind of like, they're both making waves for similar sorts of reasons. They're both, with visionary people behind, people who clearly had a vision making these movies. Yeah. And they're like filmmakers movies, they're not, like you said, franchise tentpole flicks that are just,
they're not like the
CGI
Disney Marvel
slapfest.
checklist. Yeah.
They are filmmaking movies when you look at how both and the love of the craft of filmmaking that went into them. It's interesting that we're getting these during the writers and actors strike.
It is.
And I wonder what the lessons Hollywood is going to take away from this are, because the rumbles are that the fall slate for a lot of these studios is about to get pushed back. So we're going to touch on this in the lightning round, but things like Dune potentially isn't going to be in theaters till next year, is what the word on the street is. So yeah, it's it's tough to see studios have these huge hits from these really impressive filmmakers with great casts, and know they're probably about to push back a bunch of other great movies. And I'm afraid, Dan, I have to tell you, I'm afraid we're going to get like the Bratz movie and the Polly Pocket movie and the Mighty Max movie. Like I'm nervous about what lessons are going to be taken away from a Barbie movie succeeding like this, when it seems like it was really because Greta Gerwig had such a vision for what a Barbie movie should mean. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, completely. I mean, I don't think we need to waste time being worried. That is what will happen. Yeah. I mean, if the strikes end and they can hire people to do it, it's so inevitable. I'm just like, why bother worrying? Yeah, we will be inundated by toys. And this is at a time when the superhero train seems to finally be slowing down. Like the Flash kind of bombed, Secret Invasion, no one's talking about it.
We're gonna
in a second. It seems like that's coming to an end. So Hollywood needs, but again, Hollywood needs a new thing to do, but also they can't do anything right now because no one will work for them. So they gotta take care of that, and then they can hop on a big new trend. They got video games to come. We got the video game trend. We got the toy trend. And I am looking forward to superheroes kind of maybe just not going away, but just chilling out a bit. God.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I didn't realize how ready I was for that until kind of this year. You know, I was starting to feel it, but this year has really driven it home for me. Like, I, as a viewer, am so ready to take a break from superhero stuff. And I guess we can take that and bridge it over into the most recent superhero thing that ended is solidified this for me, because I have never cared so little about the MCU as I have during Secret Invasion, which its finale aired today. Dan, have you seen the finale? And what did
I wrote a review of it this morning. It's up on WiC right now, BenjaminComing.net/Secret Invasion /Dan wrote about it /Samuel L. Jackson /Olivia Coleman .edu. You know, it was fine. I watched it. I'm glad it's over. It didn't really move the needle that much. No. I thought it was fine. I don't think there's anything really remarkable about this. I think it's got like plot holes that are just too big to really watch it and think of it as a serious thing. This entire show, they're trying to sell as like, oh my God, aliens are secretly invading the planet Earth by shape-shifting and attaining positions of power, and we have to stop them from destroying the world. But like, most of it came down to two people, Samuel L. Jackson and Ben Mendelsohn, like breaking into a guy's house, driving in a car, talking in a restaurant, and like that's what. There was no sense of scale. Yeah. Even though it was like a world, I agree with that. There was no sense of scale at all. And in this episode, like the final battle is Gravik, who's Ben Kingsley, who's in Barbie, by the way, as one of the Kens. You know, nice. Fighting knockdown, dragged out fight with here. Sorry. Oh, sure. I mean, I won't spoil it. It's like he gets superpowers, then he fights another superpowered person, and all of his followers are gone. It just seems like it's just a small show. It's so small seeming. And if you're gonna try and sell it as this world conspiracy, it shouldn't feel small. It should feel big. So it feels wrong. And I just wasn't. Yeah. It wasn't that it was terrible. It just wasn't especially good. And you're gonna need to be more than fine to get attention and get people talking.
Yeah, I think this is the most I've felt like an MCU thing has just kind of phoned it in. I've never felt that way as much as I felt like it with Secret Invasion. And that's not to say there aren't any good things about it. Yeah, like, there's some good stuff. I liked, you know, the stuff with Nick Fury and his wife was some of my favorite stuff in the show, I think. But just and Emilia Clarke is always a pleasure to watch.
She brought intensity.
Yeah, she brought
Olivia
intensity.
Coleman.
She always
I thought was probably the acting MVP for me. She was very fun. She like rattled off the little zingers.
Yeah. I expected there to be more of a, you know, you never know who's a Skrull. I expected that to have a lot more layers. It seems like there really weren't many huge, crazy reveals with that. They were all kind of like somewhat predictable or not that shocking. There wasn't a whole lot of long game aside from Rhodey, but Rhodey is the one other really well-known the one, so it's not that surprising because there's no red herrings. It's just, well, okay, the one person who is in the Avengers is a Skrull. Well, okay, fine.
It's sold as a spy show, and then there are no spy antics, and it ends with two super hard people beating each other up, like every other thing does. It just didn't distinguish itself. Also, some of it was just kind of bad, like the Rhodey thing. I wrote down the line when he was trying to convince the president to nuke Russia, and the other admiral's like, "No, we should be cautious." And he says, "Did you have a stupid pill with breakfast, Admiral?" I'm like,
yes.
Was that supposed to be funny? Was that supposed to sound cool? It sounded awful. Like this is high camp stuff. That was good.
I scoffed so loud.
I enjoyed that part. Did you take
I mean, it was
with breakfast.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll
I
say it.
laughed at the line, but I was laughing at the show rather than really with the line. Yeah,
Yes.
there were things like that. The Americans against Russia, which I know I harped on last time, like who decided that was going to be the name of the terrorist group. That's obviously they're the aliens, the people who thought of that name. Um, yeah, I really I didn't care at all about Secret Invasion. And that
No
was one of the
way.
MCU shows I've been more hyped for
Sure.
the
Yeah.
past few years. So I'm surprised to get to this point and just be like, I thought this could be, when we saw trailers, I remember us talking about this on the show, being like, that looks like it could be a special thing in the MCU.
Yeah, I remember
And it
that.
feels
Yeah.
like it was just the exact opposite of that. So much more than I expected. And now I just kind of like I don't really feel like watching the MCU anymore. Not to say that I won't. I'm sure I will, but like I don't really want to at this point.
It does
So
kind of
I don't
lay
know.
bare
Secret
how
Invasion.
precarious like franchises and series are. If you have like a bad entry or a few bad entries, it's hard to get people to trust you again. Like the MCU was riding
Yeah.
high for so long, and I don't know if they can pull out of this. I mean, Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney, said they need to reorient and to stop making to stop flooding us with content, which is obviously true. It's a matter of, and I guess now he doesn't really have a choice, does he? Because they can't make anything
Yeah.
new for a minute. But that's the right call. I hope he does that. I hope they can get it back on track. And I think a good tactic is to just pick your battles, do less, and make sure the few things you do make are really good and stand on their own. One more thing I have to mention, another
Yeah.
cringy bit. I agree
Yes.
with Nicole that some of it was cringy. Just how Nick Fury and Olivia Colman, like just the two of them, take down like what, like 24 Secret Service agents, highly trained Secret Service
Yeah.
agents who defended the president. It's like bam, 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 do nothing. Useless Secret Service agents. Useless.
Yeah. There was not a lot of, there just wasn't a lot of tension in this show. It felt
No, there
like a
was
lot
not.
of, and then this character is going to do this and they're going to do that. There was never any point where I was really worried for anyone. Yeah,
But they did
it
kill
was just
folk.
kind of meh.
Like they killed Penn Mendelsohn, which is
Mariah
nice.
Hill.
They killed
Yeah, and they killed. That's
is
true.
her name Mariah Hill or is it Maria?
It's it's probably Maria. I'm
That was
probably saying it
Maria.
wrong. Anyway, they killed those two, so
They
that's
did, yeah.
fair. It's not that it's it had some casualties, but yeah, I don't know. It just really didn't do it for me, and I'm surprised. Andrew says worst MCU Disney Plus show, She-Hulk or Secret Invasion. For me, it's Secret Invasion, and that's not even
Yeah, they're both
close. I think
whatever.
She-Hulk had some issues, but like She-Hulk also, we talked
It's
about
cute.
movies with vision about
Sure.
Barbenheimer. She-Hulk was a show that had an idea, it had a vision for what
That's
it
true.
wanted to
That's
do, and I
true.
do think it did it. Secret Invasion, I don't know what the vision was for Secret Invasion. It just feels like they were like, we're gonna give Nick Fury a show. We've got Samuel L. Jackson, and we're gonna hope people care enough just based on that alone.
That's too
Felt
bad.
like setup.
But Barbie was great. Oppenheimer was great.
Yeah.
Are we watching anything that we're enjoying, Daniel? Or that we're not
Yeah.
enjoying?
Yes. So
Or what
I
are
can
you
only mention
watching?
this briefly. So I have been watching The Witcher. The final 3 episodes for The Witcher season 3 come out tomorrow on Netflix. I have seen them.
Really?
I'm not allowed to really talk about them yet. So I
Uh-oh.
will say two things about this. One is I was really struck because I watched Secret Invasion today. I was watching some of The Witcher last night by how watching the final fight scene of Secret Invasion, I never once was like on the edge of my seat. And it was weird to me to think about The Witcher because a few of those fights had me just absolutely on the edge of my seat, shouting at my
Cool.
TV. So watching that, really enjoyed it. The only other thing I will say is I cried during each of the final 3 episodes. So I think they really nailed it.
Really?
Yes, I cried multiple times during each of the 3 episodes and was like, what the hell is happening? Why am I going through something? Why are there all these tears? But I just think they did a great job with it.
Oh yeah, they're good
Um,
tears, Julie, I think. Here's okay,
yes,
don't tell anybody,
good
but
tears.
I missed it up during Barbie, and if I weren't in a theater surrounded by people, I would have just started to cry. But I held it back a bit because I want to maintain my reputation as a Sylvester Stallone like Cypher Man.
Cool. What have you been watching, Dan?
I am excited for the. I can't believe I'm saying this because it might mean I have to eat some more
It's
currency.
crazy.
But I'm excited for The Witcher. At least I want to see the next episode because I know that's the coup at Theniad, and I'm looking forward to that. And you liked it, our colleague Bryce liked it, so I'm looking forward to that at least. Andrew keeps recommending the My Adventures with Superman, which I will. It's up my alley. I will watch that. Because right now I watch too much other stuff. I watched Good Omens that airs Friday.
Ooh.
So I got the screeners for that.
How was it?
And it's very British and charming. You know how that's what a curious island.
Yeah.
It's very cute. It's like the first season. I don't know what it is with like British comedies. They just have that kind of way of being politely tense. I don't have a ton of experience with them, but that's the style, and it's very kind of arch. It's very winky. It's very dry as a bone, which I like. The performances are good. The budget's good. I'm curious to see more.
Cool.
I watched the premiere and I like it. I like the first season. I like this season. It seems a little smaller in scale, but the performances really carry the charm. I'm also watching Warrior. I got screeners for that. I keep recommending that show. That show rocks. It's great. I watched The Orville and I'm almost done with it. I think you should watch Warrior and tell me what you think at some point. It's really good. The action's great. The characters are great. The drama is great. They know how to build a season, like not in a choppy, just obvious way. It's clear they're building something big, and I love that. It can be melodramatic, but you know what? When the karate men or chop each other like that, I'm willing to go with the melodrama if it means I get to have this heightened emotional state where I scream at the screen where the guy chips it from his fingers. Warrior, watch it. It's really, really good.
You're selling it. I definitely want to. So that's a fair trade. You've watched The Orville. I will watch Warrior.
I'm not quite finished, but I am almost done with The Orville. I'm still in New Horizons. So that watching The Righteous Gemstones, that's good. And I bet I will watch the Superman show because it does seem like something I would watch. But not yet. Not yet.
Cool. Not yet. The only other thing I've been really watching in the past week, I started Foundation. I feel like, I've just been curious. It's based on an Isaac Asimov book. I've been getting the ads. I see some people liking it and more people hating it.
Some people.
So curiosity drew me to Foundation. Jury's kind of out. I've watched the first couple of episodes.
We watched the first couple.
I enjoyed parts of them for sure. It also there are also other parts that just feel a little weird. And I imagine it's nothing like the Isaac Asimov books, but I haven't read them, so I can't speak to that. Lee Pace is a pretty good villain. Yeah, I get the feeling that they know he is a gorgeous man, so they definitely try to utilize that whenever they can. I've heard there is a nude. Yeah, he has a nude fight scene in the second season, I have heard. So and even in the episodes I've watched, they've gotten him out of his shirt as much as they can. So it seems like that is they're very aware of it. But in general, I've liked it. It's cool to see a show where the crux of the issue is something you don't see portrayed a lot, which is basically the math. The math predicted the end of this galactic empire, and that, what do we do to mathematicians and scientists who predict catastrophes, and that the way we live is wrong. Historically, it hasn't worked out very well for them.
We give them wedgies and shove them into lockers.
That is the absolute nicest thing that can happen. I was thinking of, I don't really remember, people like Galileo or I'm sure there are examples, especially in Greek society too, of great thinkers whose great thinking got them into trouble.
Wasn't Galileo like excommunicated or executed by the church or something? So. I forget.
Yeah, I think there are, you can find lots of examples of those kinds of things in history. And that is what Foundation is. It's that kind of story, but in space. So yeah, it's interesting, but I can't say that it is necessarily going to be good. The jury is very much out. The one thing I will note is the visuals are pretty gorgeous.
Yeah.
And the music is done by Bear McCreary, which I didn't know before I started it. So it has his trademark, grandeur that he brings to things like Rings of Power.
How many shows is he working
Outlander. He's just everywhere now.
Like,
Which I don't hate because he's
work to
amazing.
somebody else, I guess.
Yeah,
but it's also like it feels like he and Ramin Djawadi are like the composers that Hollywood has working for them. It's got to be someone else who's interesting.
I want more stuff. I will say The Witcher season 3, their composer, so they got a different composer for season 2 and 3 than season 1. And I like the music in season 1, but in season 3 it's really, really good, especially in these last 3 episodes. I want the composer who did Prey, Sarah Schachner. I want her to do more. So she did Assassin's Creed Valhalla too, and I want to see her doing more because the Prey soundtrack is amazing. That's my plug. I'm just gonna.
As Richard says, you gotta hire Lin-Manuel Miranda or nobody else. Whatever. I talk about Bruno whenever I want. All right, Daniel. Should we move on to the final segment of the show?
Yeah, let's do it. So I clearly put these in order. It's all very intentional. Let's not squint too hard at it. No, that was all a lie. But I am going to ask you things. Are you ready to be asked them? Okay.
Guilty.
So and for those of you watching, if you've never seen an episode of our podcast, we are going to go through news stories we didn't have time to hit during the main show. We have 20 seconds on the clock, or we get buzzed into infamy by producer Richard. So starting with this first one, Invincible, Prime Video's subversive animated superhero show, is coming back this year, but we're only getting 4 episodes. What's the deal with that?
The deal is the strikes. So Invincible, I really like the first season of Amazon. I bet Andrew might like it if he likes the Superman show. Second season's coming back. Looking forward to it, but they're going to split the 8 episodes into chunks of 4 because they know they don't have anything coming later, like in 2024, because the strikes are on. They're not making anything, so they're going to split up the season. They're going to split it up and make it last and stretch it out. Prepare for more of that as things continue. More of that kind of thing. Speaking of superhero shows that air on Amazon Prime Video, Daniel, The Boys spinoff, Gen V, got a trailer and a release date. The first 3 episodes premiere on Prime Video on September 29th.
Yeah. I'm glad to see Gen V get a release date. They've been teasing this show since like February of this year. So we were due to get a release date. I'm excited, kind of, for Gen V. Like, I'm going to watch it. The Boys is always a good time. It's one of those shows I'm never super hyped about, and then it gets here and I love it. Yeah. So, college age Boys spinoff, 8 episodes, starts on September 29th. Cool. This is cool. So, The Walking Dead is going through its spin-off renaissance right now. And the one that is on at the moment is The Walking Dead Dead City, which is the show about Negan and Maggie. That's apparently been renewed for season 2.
Oh, good for it. I mean, I now it looks like that was always going to be the case. I haven't watched it, but I understand that it ended on a pretty big, not cliffhanger, but like clearly the story is not resolved. I think they knew what they were doing. It's been a hit. Like, folk have watched it. So, Viacom deals with this new age of zombies. Doing good today. All right. Speaking of delays and strikes and all these such things, Daniel, Dune Part 2, as well as Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, starring Jason Momoa as Fish God, may be delayed into 2024 due to the ongoing writers and actors strikes.
Yeah, that is what is being reported, is that studios are eyeing pushing those movies back. I think it makes sense. Dune is a star-studded affair. A huge part of that is that they have this incredible cast. So it would make no sense to release it when the cast can't be promoting a movie like Dune. I feel a little bad for Aquaman. It's been pushed back a lot. What's one more?
Either folk will pay a ticket to see Jason Momoa shirtless, or they won't.
Yep. No matter how you slice it, Aquaman is swimming upstream. So speaking of Aquaman, it has also supposedly had all of its Batman scenes cut out. Why?
I suppose this is interesting. So that movie is so bizarre because it was made back when they still wanted to have a DC universe before they were going to scrap the whole thing. So they were going to like tie it into the other DC movies by putting Michael Keaton and Ben Affleck in it as Batman or whatever. And now that they're scrapping all that, they're just going to take it out. So what a long, strange journey it's had.
Yeah, for real.
All right. Speaking of The Witcher a little bit ago, season 3 is almost over. Season 4 will no longer feature Henry Cavill in lead role of Geralt of Rivia, but it will feature Liam Hemsworth. Apparently, he's already worn the Geralt costume, and The Witcher will introduce him in a meta way. Daniel, what could they mean?
Yeah, so The Witcher, they're in the books, they do a lot of stuff with like narrative. Like there are parts where it's like people telling the story of Geralt, and then it kind of cuts to what Geralt is doing. So that's what I think they might mean by this, is that they're going to play with like a framing story. So I don't know if it'll be like Geralt traveled and it changed him or something, or it's a different narrator, something weird like that. But it'd be true to the books if they did that, spirit wise. So we're going to end with some more strike news. Get used to it because, I imagine that's going to keep being the case for a while. But apparently, a Wicked movie was being produced. I believe they're making 2 of them, but the first one was filming. Apparently, it got shut down mere days from completion. Oof.
Yeah, that is too bad. I would watch a Wicked movie. I like the musical, although I don't like it's being split into 2. But yeah, they were almost done with part 1.
Yeah.
And then Ariana Grande just had to leave because no one would show up to act alongside her, and I imagine her too. And no one could write her beautiful songs. So that's too bad. Yeah. I'll watch it if it comes out. I might. I'm still not sure if I watch it or not. I don't like the 2-part thing. And finally,
I'm not a fan either.
You definitely did want to do the strike stuff. Daniel, back to The Witcher and all things.
I didn't
witchering.
plan it this way, for the record.
Okay. The Witcher season 4 with Liam Hemsworth has been delayed. Filming on it has been delayed into next year.
Yes. Yeah. So that is the good word. The Witcher season 4 was originally supposed to start filming on September 3rd, I believe. This just came out recently. September 3rd was the filming date. And now it has also come out that it is almost certainly being pushed back until 2024, which means we probably won't see season 4 until 2025. So
it happens.
Sorry. Yeah, it does.
Chris will watch it too. Yeah, Wicked. Have you ever seen Wicked, Daniel? You ever see it on stage?
I have not. I mean, so I haven't seen it on stage. I have seen enough videos of it that it almost feels like I've seen it, because I went to school for music. I know a bunch of theater kids.
That's right.
And I've also read the book. So I'm very familiar with Wicked, considering that I haven't seen it.
And you went to music school back when it was big. Oh, you poor man. I bet no one would shut up about Defying Gravity back then. Okay.
They were all Defying Gravity.
Yes, I take it all back. Okay, cool. But yeah, that's our show. What a fun time we had. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Go ahead and give us a like, give us a subscribe, give us a comment. Thank you for commenting out there. We know we love you all. Always helps. And or come back next week. Give us a watch every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, 3 p.m. In Julie Davies' time on the East Coast. Not sure for how long, but I'm glad you didn't have to get up that early to watch this time, Julie. 1 p.m. in the mountains, and noon on the sunny West Coast. You know what? Come on back, because here at WiC, we get crunk and party all night long. Oh!
Take care, y'all.